What is the secret to unlocking your full potential? What makes your idols any different than you? How do you become the person you've always wanted to be in life? This is where you get all of your questions answered. My name is Justin Shank, and I sit down with some of the most epic individuals who are changing the world with their actions in business and in life. We discuss how they did it, why they pushed themselves, and more importantly, how they were able to focus on continuous growth to achieve their dreams. Welcome to the Growth Now movement. This week, I sit down with Craig Ballantyne. Craig is the author of The Perfect Day Formula, the Wall Street Journal's best-selling book Unstoppable, and his next book coming out, The Perfect Week Formula. He's a high-paid coach, the creator of the Perfect Life Workshop and 2 exclusive annual events, and also the founder of a multiple 7-figure fitness empire, plus so much more. His raw, no-nonsense coaching style and actionable strategies have empowered clients like Joe Polish, Shanda Sumpter, Joel Marion, Jason Capital, and Bedros Keuilian to build the lives of their dreams, just to name a few. I think you guys are really going to love this episode. Craig and I really do a deep dive on how to create that perfect life for yourself, not based off of what other people tell you, but how do you truly optimize, how do you truly live at your full potential and create the life that you truly desire. We get a behind-the-scenes look of the Greatest Week Formula before it even comes out, which is super exciting. We also talk about the 5 a.m. club and where that started and why it's something that we shouldn't just hop on the bandwagon and do. Craig's take on life, business, and everything else that surrounds it is actually really intriguing and something a lot of us can really wrap our heads around and start to implement right away. I think you guys are going to love it. Now, before we get to the episode, I want to remind you guys that tickets for Growth Now Movement Live are still on sale. Over 40% of the VIP tickets are already gone, so you want to make sure you head over to gnmlive.com and get your tickets today to learn from people like Natalie Jill, Anthony Trucks, Andre Young, and so many more, plus the incredible list of movement makers like Adam Shively, Michael Marcial was just added to the lineup, and Liz Pineda. This is going to be an absolutely game-changing event. So if you're ready to grow your business, grow your life, grow your relationships, and grow your overall happiness, head over to gnmlive.com and get your tickets before prices go up because they're going up soon. Now, without further ado, let's get to the episode with Craig Ballantyne. Craig, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, this is going to be so much fun, Justin. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Joel Marion introduced us, and I had known about you with your past book, Perfect Life Formula, and I was like, yeah, let's do this interview. I'm excited to kind of share your knowledge and your wisdom with my audience, man. But why don't we take a second and have you take a couple minutes and just talk about who is Craig today, and then we'll unlock how you got there.
Okay, great. So right now what I do is I coach 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs to hit the 8-figure level and give them what I call the Ballantyne method, which is clarity, structure, and discipline. So if those are missing in your life, this is going to be a great show for you.
Awesome, man. So how did you come up with clarity, structure, and discipline as the top 3 things?
It's a great question. And so it's partly my strengths. So if you've ever done the Strength Finder test, have you done that one?
Mm-hmm. No, me personally, but I've heard of it. I've never done it.
Yeah. So Strength Finder shows me like there's 34 characteristics, and they're, like one of them is leadership, and mine are strategy, futuristic thinking, vision, action, and learning. Those are the things that I'm really strong on. And then I've also, I spent basically 2 decades in the weight loss world helping people transform their lives. And I figured out, okay, these are the things that are missing. And then I had my own anxiety attacks back in the day, and I realized I needed more structure in my own life. And so for the last 13 years, I've been putting that in place to make it automatic and systematic so that you don't actually require discipline and willpower. So I build this completely different approach to discipline than most people think. And and then what I realized, I was really good at helping entrepreneurs who had a whole bunch of ideas, were overwhelmed, and just needed those 3 things in their life. They needed clarity on where to go. They needed discipline in their daily habits. And when you have those 2 things, you can build the structure of a 90-day quarterly plan to go and smash your goals out of the park. So that's how it all came together.
Very, very cool. So obviously it's interesting. You think about discipline now, and the first name that comes to mind when I'm thinking about it currently is obviously Jocko.
right? Because that's his big thing. You know,
Sure.
Jocko Willink? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's his big thing right now. So that's kind of the face that I picture, but it's like this extreme, just get your shit together, be disciplined kind of approach. And you're saying with you, it doesn't, it doesn't work that way. So let's do a deep dive on how that kind of unfolds in your world as far as discipline.
Okay. So it's this simple. Now, here's the thing is I don't swear, so I can't actually use the S word, but so it sounds way less cool, but, and I don't have anything against swearing. It's just that I took an oath not to swear in 2011. And one of the secrets to kicking a bad habit to the curb is public accountability. So if you think discipline is getting your crap together, discipline is actually getting the crap out of your life so that you can't get yourself into crap. So it is the removal of. So most people think, oh, if I got to get disciplined, I got to get into these things, right? I got to become this. How's about this? How's about if you took a look at your life and all the things that you weren't disciplined with, potato chips at night, the one glass of wine that turns into 4, why don't you just get rid of that stuff? If you got that stuff out of your local and environment and you got yourself out of bad global environments, and I'll explain those both in a second, then discipline becomes automatic and systematic because you can't make those mistakes. So it is a little bit about, I got to become, I got to hit the alarm and get up in the morning. But okay, well, what if we eliminated all the things that stopped you from wanting to actually get up in the morning? If we prevented you from doing the wrong things at night, now it's easy for you to get up in the morning. So it's a removal of a lot of things. And I know this because I've had, the binge drinking stuff, binge eating stuff, all this stuff that everybody struggles with. I used to want to watch a lot of TV and all this stuff, and I just eliminated it. And now my life is exponentially better. And everybody thinks I'm super disciplined when at the core of me, I'm actually as lazy and unmotivated as anybody you could probably picture. But I put the systems into place where my local and global environments support my automatic and systematic discipline and right decisions.
Got it. Yeah. So it totally makes sense. So obviously you take away the potential distraction. And then that allows you to focus on the things that are important, the things that get you closer to your goal.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, this is definitely a little bit from James Clear, is that you got to change your identity. So I'm the type of person, I look at myself as a British gentleman, polite and courteous at all times. So I do not curse. I hold the door open for people, that sort of stuff. Now, I'm not naturally like that. I mean, when I go to the grocery store, I want to race the old lady to the cashier because I want to be there first because I'm always impatient. Okay, well, that's the way I want to be,
right?
Like deep down, but that's not the way I want to be up here. So I changed my mindset. Like, whoa, Craig, what are you doing? That's not what the British gentleman does. The British gentleman allows everybody to go ahead of them. If there's one person, going to the cashier at the same time, doesn't matter if they're an old woman or if they're a biker gang guy. The biker gang guy goes, well, not just because the biker gang guy is a biker gang guy, but just, I would just let him. So that's the type of thing. And so I mentioned the things local and global environments before, and the environment is key. Joel and I have a friend, a guy named Jason Capital, and he says environment is destiny. And I totally agree with this. So your local environment, if you are not getting all of the work done that you want over the course of the day, look at your local environment. And your local environment, all you have to do this unless you are driving a car, unless you're driving you can do this if you're driving a Tesla, but not if you're driving any other type of car where you have to have your hands on the wheel. But put your arms out to your side and then rotate around. And that, circumference there, that's your local environment. So when you're working and your phone is within arm's reach and your M&Ms are within arm's reach, and that book that, man, you wouldn't read it at night when you said you were going to read it, but right now when you have to write that sales letter, that book sure looks interesting, right? All that stuff, everything, that's your local environment. So remove all your temptations from your local environment. And this actually a lot of my ideas come from the weight loss world because that's where I spent so much time before I transitioned over to business coaching and the discipline stuff. And so research shows that if you, and this is not rocket surgery, but research shows if you have a bowl of M&Ms within arm's reach, that's when you eat the most of them. Oh, wow. Right. But if you move that thing across, Right. Yeah. If you move that across the room, wait for it, you'll eat less. Right. Okay. If you put those M&Ms in a cupboard that takes a ladder to get to, you'll eat fewer of them. And if you don't have the M&Ms in your house, you won't eat any at all. And it actually goes for good stuff too. If you put fruits and vegetables at eye level in your fridge, you actually eat more of them. If you want your kids to eat fruits, put fruit on the cupboard. They'll start to eat more of them. If you want to rearrange your cafeteria so that your kids' cafeteria, so they eat better food, they would put fruits and vegetables at the start and at the cash register. So it's like you can just manipulate people, nudge people, as the politically correct term is, into making better decisions, and you can do that for yourself. Now, your global environment is, you can find yourself in the toxic environments of bars, sports, and getting obsessed with sports. I get frustrated, and a couple of my friends are very much like this. My friend Joel likes sports, but my friend Bedros Keuilian, who I do a lot of stuff with, who's Joel's friend as well, we get so frustrated by people who get angry about their sports team because think about all the energy you're losing by like if you're a Jets fan, you're never going to have a good life. If you're poor Gary V, right? Dude, get away from the Jets. Get away from the Jets and just put that, if he put more energy, maybe he could work less or whatever. But all the people who go through life putting all the energy into sports where you have no control over it, you're not a part of it, and your personal identity is affected by whether true strangers to you, win or lose a child's game. And when you look at it like that, you're like, okay, wait a minute. I don't need to be, at my friends every Sunday I know people who do this from 10 a.m. till 10 p.m., drinking, eating crap, arguing, talking about a game that's coming up, and just I'm right. And, it's just get out of that if you want to become super successful in life. It's okay to go and do it for a little bit. I'll watch the game. They didn't win. I got to go home and be okay with it. Great. Okay. Right. You like the sport. That's cool. I like sports too, but I don't get obsessed with it. And then it's bars and places, bad environments. That's your global environment. Stay out of bad toxic global environments, and you don't have to have a lot of discipline in life.
No, I love that. So obviously, what I'm hearing is, obviously surround yourself with the right people, make it easier to make the right choices, all of these things. But what comes with that, I'm going to go a level deeper. And what comes with that for a lot of people are, I might lose my friends. I might not be as happy, whatever excuses they start to tell themselves when they're like, okay, I get it. Let's change my environment, change my life, change everything that I'm doing, change the trajectory of this, and this, so I can see my goal. What would you say to those people that are kind of making excuses to themselves to not change their environment?
Right. That is a very common, resistance to it. Okay. But if you hang around people who won't like you because you don't watch football with them, whoa, wait a minute. It's like, you hang around people who are in relationships where the other person is very toxic and belittles you or, abuses you. You're like, well, wait a minute. If you left that, how could your life be worse? Sort of thing. So obviously there's that side of thing. And there's a whole deeper level of psychology that I'm not an expert in, why some people stay in those relationships. But on a rational level, your life could not possibly get worse if you left those things. And, for example, I had a client who was like, what if the people find out that I unfollowed them on Instagram? And I'm like, oh, and that's not a joke.
That's crazy.
That's not it's not just one person. And you and I think that is ridiculous. First of all, if you hang around a person who actively looks to see who has unfollowed them on Instagram, that person's probably not really worthwhile having in your life.
Yeah. And they're a bit toxic at this point.
Right. But that actually runs through a lot of people's heads, because I tell a lot of people to unfollow people on Instagram, because why are you following people on Instagram? How is that certain? If you're following anybody on social media and it does not elevate you in some way, if it brings any bit of negative energy into your life, whether it's politics, whether it's business, whether it makes you envious of them, if there's any negativity, you have to unfollow that person. You absolutely possibly have to unfollow them, because remember, 2 years ago, you didn't even have an Instagram account. And so now you're worried that someone who is on a social media that you were never even on 2 years ago finds out that you don't follow them. It's just so irrational. And so you have to, that's where it comes back to the clarity. And so the clarity is actually where I start all the coaching. And the clarity starts with your values and your vision, because your values and your vision drive every daily decision. And if you actually start with somebody's clarity, it always basically comes down to, I want to have, my wife and kids in a great home, and I want to spend lots of time with them, and I want to travel the world with them, and I want to have a great business, and I don't want to be working all the time. Okay, great. So those decisions, and I want to be healthy. I want to, feel great forever. Okay. If you frame every daily decision in those values, then how does going and following somebody on Instagram serve any of that? How does watching football 12 hours a day serve any of that? How does going to a bar and getting drunk when you're 33 years old serve any of that? And you realize it doesn't. And if you also future cast and you go, okay, if I was sitting in my rocking chair at 90 years old, what am I going to look back and wish I had done more of? It's not, you're not going to sit there and go, man, what a life. I watched every episode of Game of Thrones 3 times. Best life ever. Like who is ever going to sit there and do that? More people are going to sit there and go, I wish I spent more time at work than say that.
Yeah.
And yet what are we doing? And here's the thing. This is classic, but it is true. It's actually not our fault. So a lot of the mistakes that we make are not our fault. And have you ever read the book Sapiens by, I forget his name. It's a Jewish name.
I have not.
It's an incredible book. It's a great book, Sapiens. And then he has another one, follow-up called Homo Deus. It's, look it up while I talk.
Sure.
He has 3 names, and it's a bestseller, and it's very interesting. And one of the great lines from the book, it's like Yuval Noel or something like that. And one of the lines, and this, if everybody just understands this line, they'll understand human nature. And it's, what was once a virtue is now a vice. What was once a virtue is now a vice. So if you go back 10,000 years ago, if you were not accepted by the tribe, if you stood out, you were a dead person. Because if you're not accepted in a small group of 50, 150, 250 people, whatever the size of the tribe was, and you're ostracized, years ago, you couldn't just go to your condo and fine, I'll just find a group of people I know on the internet and hang out with them. No, you can't do that. You have no food, you have no protection, nothing. So being part and not standing out 150 years ago was actually, or not 150, 10,000 years ago was a virtue. Being, gorging on sweets and fat 10,000 years ago was a virtue. Now it's not. And so we're wired as humans to today do a whole bunch of different things, or we want to do a whole bunch of different things compared to what we're wired to. And that goes back to it's not our fault thing, in that if you're addicted to your phone, if you're addicted to Doritos, and you're addicted to television shows, here's the thing, is that we have most of the world's smartest minds are dedicated to making you addicted to those things. Isn't that crazy ironic?
It is crazy.
How many PhDs from MIT work at Facebook and Instagram and Apple to get you addicted to your phone? That's their job. Let's take our smartest people in the world and get us addicted to this thing. Right?
Yeah.
So
same with food too. I just saw, I guess when Michelle Obama was trying to do get kids fit thing, it was all sponsored by Kellogg's and all the companies that essentially are making us not fit because of all the processed sugars and stuff. It was kind of crazy to see that.
Right. So you have all the smartest minds in the food world were, maybe not now as the food revolution comes along, but 10 years ago, if you're a food scientist, you're going to work at Doritos to make people more addicted. So you're taste testing every day somebody's reaction to a new chip on their taste buds, and you're looking at their neural response and seeing if it lights up the areas where it's addictive. That's what America's smartest minds were doing in the food science world. And that's what they're doing at Netflix and all this stuff. And they're loading up Netflix shows and YouTube videos so that when you're done one, the other one starts to load. And the next thing you know, you're like, I'm just going to watch one. And they've got it set up where you can't watch any less than 4. It's like the old potato chip thing. You can't just eat one. You can't, because of the scientists. You can't just watch one show, and you can't just click on one app or watch one person's story. If you play by their rules. And that's where it goes back, all the way back to the discipline stuff. If you change the rules of engagement, then you don't have to have the discipline of like, I'm just going to watch one. And here's how you change the rules of engagement is, okay, you get the phone out of the local environment. When I work, I put the phone, there's four levels, right? This is how addicted I am to the phone. And I'm the discipline guy, right? Because I know once I get on there, I'm like most people. They got me in there.
Yeah.
So I have it in airplane mode, turned off, in another room, in a desk drawer. And there are days when I'm weak where I will get all the way to like getting ready to take it out of airplane mode when I'm hit my hand. I got to get back to work. And I'll, put it back in the thing and go and do it. I also only have 3 apps that I use on my phone. So if you looked at the screen of my phone, it's basically blank. I have Instagram, I have Uber, and I actually have 4 now because I got the Aura Ring thing. So I have the Aura Ring and then this app that cuts video. Like those are the only apps I have on my phone. I don't get any notifications on my phone. So there's never any of those little red circles. And I've just changed the rules. Like, okay, if I'm going to play the iPhone game with you, I'm going to play it by my rules. And it keeps me out of trouble, allows me to be more productive. And that's where the whole discipline thing came from, was everybody's like, how do you write all these articles and all these books and make all these videos, man? Like, what are you working like 24 hours a day? I go, no, I work the same as you, but I actually work, instead of being sucked into the thing. I've won the game. I've always, in everything in my life, rigged the game in my favor to make it easier for me to win. Remember, and that's because I'm lazy.
Yeah. No, and I love that. And it's a total hack. By the way, to give credit where credit is due, the author of that book is Yuval Noah Harari.
Yes.
Yeah. And I see Homo Deuce as well on there.
Yeah, that's the next one. I didn't like it because it's a little too like he believes in Skynet, and you're like, oh, well, this is kind of depressing.
Yeah, this is a whole other level.
But so the Homo Deuce one is about the future and where we're going. So of course it's not necessarily accurate. The other one is about here's how we got to where we are today.
Yeah. Love that. I love all that stuff. So let's talk about your books for a second. Obviously,
for sure, man.
So many people are familiar with the Perfect Day formula.
I hope so.
I just want to go over that briefly, right? And then I want to talk about your newest book, Unstoppable, because that's another level of.
And I got a new one coming out in a month, so we got another book to talk to.
Yeah, we'll talk about that as well. So let's go over the Perfect Day formula. Let's break it down as simple as possible for people that may not be familiar, for them to be like, okay, that's what I can do. That's how I create the perfect day, then year, then life.
Yeah, great. So before we go into that, I want to preface it by saying on Amazon, my most critical review, like not a 1-star review for like someone who didn't get the book in the mail or something, but the most critical 3-star review is from a married woman with 1 kid. One of my best 5-star reviews is from a divorced woman with 3 kids. So a single woman, essentially raising 3 kids on her own, ranks it higher than the woman with 1 child and support. That's amazing. It's all about it's the mindset, right? It's like, anybody could have written this book could have been even better than the one I wrote. And that person who ranked it as 3 stars is the type of person who would say, oh, that won't work for me because, whereas the other person was open-minded. So as we go through this, I think one of the problems with that book, which is why I wrote my new book, The Perfect Week Formula. But the problems with the Perfect Day formula is everybody thought I was telling them to live the way that I lived. And it wasn't that. I used a lot of my personal examples, but it was the principles of. So, it's great that you had Joel on the show, because when I wrote that book, Joel and I actually existed on opposite schedules. And I would actually spend a lot of time at Joel's house. I live in Toronto. I don't want to get out of here in the wintertime. So I would go down there for, maybe like 4 weeks in the wintertime. And he has a huge house, right? Huge house.
I've been there. So we swapped shows in his man cave. So yeah.
Okay. So did he show you my bedroom up by his office?
He did. I did not go upstairs.
Oh, okay. Okay. So when he gives a tour of his house to people, he says, and this is Craig's bedroom, because I stay there so much. And so his office is upstairs and the bedroom is right off the side of the office. It's actually you have to go into the office and then the bedroom's there. So I get up very early in the morning, as I talk about in the Perfect Day Formula, and Joel goes to bed very late at night. So I would get up at 4:00 in the morning. And right there, everybody's thinking, well, I don't want to get up at 4:00 in the morning. And you don't have to get up at 4:00 in the morning. Okay.
Right.
Remember this. It's not about the hour that you get up. It's about what you do with the hours that you are up. Okay? So it's not about the hour. You know,
I love that.
You don't have to join the 5 a.m. club. I think the 5 a.m. club is one of the worst ideas for a lot of people. It's not about extreme early rising. Okay? That's not the secret to success.
Right.
Because Joel, when I got up at 4, that was a signal for Joel to go to bed. He would be like, he wouldn't say anything to me, and neither would I say anything to him, because I'm kind of tired and he's kind of tired on the other way. So he would get up, and I don't know if you're old like me, but when I grew up as a kid, I watched a lot of Bugs Bunny, and there was the episode with the sheepdogs, right? And the one sheepdog would be like punching out, and the other one punching in and be like, "Hey, Sam."
Yep.
I forget the other one's name. That was like me and Joel. We would just like cross like this. He would be on the way out of the office. I'd be on the way in, and he would go to his master bedroom, and then I'd see him again at like noon. And so everybody thinks like, oh, Craig is telling me to get up at 4:00 in the morning, and I don't like this. This is ridiculous. It's not. What I'm telling you to do is, one of the principles is get up 15 minutes earlier than you are right now. That's it. Just 15. Okay. So if you're getting up at 6:45 right now, the kids get up at 7, you got to take care of them. Get up at 6:30. Go down to your kitchen table with pen and paper only, no electronics, and sit there and think about your number one opportunity in life or your number one problem. So take advantage of the opportunity. Like, oh, you know what? If we, generate leads here and we improve our sales conversion here, man, we can 10x our revenue in the next 18 months. Or maybe you have $10,000 worth of credit card debt. If you sat there 15 minutes a day, 6 days a week, that's 72 hours in a year, and you sat there and thought, all right, here's what I can do to cut my expenses, and here's how I can generate more income, you're going to solve that problem, and you're going to take advantage of that opportunity way more than if you over some point in the day, you were trying to find time to work on these issues. That's another important line. You don't find time for what matters. You make time. Okay. You don't find time. It's not like it's under the bed with your ab rocker that you bought on the infomercials. It's not like time.
You bought that to save time.
Right. Yeah. It's not like time is collecting dust with the ab rocker that you bought to save time. No, you got to make time for what matters. And it's a totally different mindset. So I'm a bit of a copywriter and obviously a book writer. So to me, words matter, including what you say in your head. And if you say, I'm going to try and find time for it, well, you're not really committed to it. But if you say, I'm going to make time for this, then you're a committed person for that. So if you make time 15 minutes a day to work on your number one thing in life every single day, just 15 minutes, you'll be amazed at how far you can get in life. And you can write a book in 15 minutes a day in about 12 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That is amazing.
Small book, obviously, but an expert can probably do about 400 to 500 words if you can type decently in 15 minutes. And if you do that for 10 weeks, you have a 30,000 word mini book.
Yeah. Was it 100 pages, 100 something pages?
About that.
Yeah. Which is what publishers want. Just an FYI as a publisher friend. So it's like, that's what they want.
There you go.
100 pages. So that's crazy. I mean, that's crazy to think about because, that's something that my publisher friend wants me to write a book and I keep putting it off because I'm like, I don't have the time. But now when you break that down, I do have the time. I'm just choosing.
Well, I can tell you an even faster way to write a book, which is how I wrote my newest book. And that's simply just do audio. And then what you do is you outline it. You go, okay, here's what I'm going to do. And then you talk it because you can talk about 25 pages in an hour. And if you talked out about 4 hours, now you have the transcript. You take it to somebody who can translate a transcript into something that sounds like it was written. And, you can find great editors and ghostwriters all over the place now. And the next thing you know, you can have that book done in 60 days. So that's how we did Unstoppable a little bit like that. So do you know Tucker Max?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I use Tucker's company. I use Tucker's
Scribe. It's called Scribed now, right? It used to be called
it used to be Book in a Box.
Yeah.
Classic Tucker. So my first book, Perfect Day Formula, I had written 300 pages, but essentially there was individual essays, and I was so stuck. I didn't know how to put it all together. And one of my business partners, Matt, said, "Hey, go use Tucker." So I took the book to Tucker's company. They got me an editor. They sent me back 110 pages of my 300. I'm like, there goes 12 months of my life. And we use the content for other stuff. But okay, so that was the perfect day formula, which we can definitely dive deeper into, again, with some lessons. But then for Unstoppable, the next book, we did the total Scribe method, which was they interview you and then they write it and then you edit it. And that was okay. I think it works. It depends on what the goal of your book is. Yeah. Who I would recommend that for. Like you're a financial advisor and you just need a business card that's a book. Perfect. Now, if you want a book to be a bestseller, like I did, I rewrote a lot of the sentences because it just wasn't hitting my voice. Yeah. So I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to writing. Now, for my newest book, I have a guy who writes my emails, and he sounds better than I would if I wrote my emails and my articles and my essays, because he's just studied under me for a long time. So we did the audio. I just told stories to him over and over and over again. He wrote it. I edited it. And not only that, but I had 25 of my clients read the book for free, got free editing from them and feedback on, what didn't make sense and that sort of stuff. And they had 3 days to read the book and send it back. So we had the editing turned around really fast. And if it wasn't for his heavy workload of all the other stuff he had to write, I mean, we could have done that in about 60 to 90 days for sure. So that's how another way for you to do the book without you actually writing if you're not a fan of writing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's something that I've considered. And there's so many different options in today's world, right, to get stuff done. And it's so true. And I love that you've written all these books. This is book number 6?
It's book number 3 in the business coaching side of things, the Perfect Week Formula. Then we have a gratitude journal. You can call that a book or not. I have another couple of books in the fitness space, one with an actual publisher called The Great Cardio Myth. That was my whole shtick back in the fitness space, is you don't ever have to do cardio on a machine. It's like, think of all the people in the blue zone, like just go on a little tangent here. But if you want to live like a long, healthy life, you have to, use the elliptical. I'll be like, go to Okinawa or like those other 7 blue zones of the world. I'm pretty sure that nobody on Okinawa is using like an elliptical to live to 100. Okay.
Right.
You don't have to do that stuff. And so that was my whole thing. And that was how, Joel eventually hired me as a business coach because he wanted to have the success that I had as a fitness coach. It was actually funny. Today is the 10-year anniversary of when Joel had a fitness seminar in Florida that I spoke at. It was one of the Facebook memories that came up. So he and I have known each other for a long time. Yeah.
That's really, really cool. Yeah.
So those are all the books.
Yeah. And Joel on my show shared that whole, like when I was getting into the ebook thing, I got to people who did the ebook. You had to have been one of those people, I imagine.
Yeah, I sold my first program on the internet in January 28th, 2001.
Wow.
Yeah, and
I was still in high school.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had just graduated. I was 26 or 25. I had gotten a master's degree in exercise physiology, and I started writing for Men's Health magazine in 2000, which gave me the critical credibility, which is absolutely key. For every entrepreneur, you need critical credibility, which is whether you're a local entrepreneur, just get in the local newspaper or on the radio show. That's critical credibility. As a person in the fitness world, as being a writer for Men's Health, man, that's the biggest fitness publication in the world. And so it opened up so many doors for me. And then one of the guys, they actually paid me to answer questions on their forum. And some guy sent me a private message and said, will you design a workout program for me? And so I sent him a Word document with workout charts in it, no pictures. It was a Word document, not even a PDF, a Word document. And, at 25, I sold it to him for $60, and that was American dollars. And as a Canadian, that was like $100 Canadian back in, it was literally, but when you did the conversion back in 2000, or 2001. So that was my first thing. And then, there was a guy who came before me that was even bigger, a guy named Tom Venuto. I eventually hired Tom as my coach. My business took off in 2006. Then I had a lot of people asking me to coach them on it. So I started my own mastermind and stuff in 2007. Then Joel contacted me at Christmas time, 2008. And that guy is a monster at marketing. And he had these huge launches in 2009, and the rest is history.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. So let's get back on track as we're talking about your old life, right? So, you talk about this new book. What's the new book all about?
So the perfect week formula, I realized when I wrote the perfect day formula, I made a mistake. I wrote the wrong book because there's a lot of questions that come up. Like, what do I do on weekends? What about on this day? And so on. Because like your perfect day, nobody's days look the same during the week. You might have a Monday that's insane. You might have, Thursdays, normal work day, but crazy with kids activities or stuff like that. So I realized like we got to come around with a more holistic plan. So essentially we teach people to build out a 7x7 grid. And then here's another of one of my phrases that you should write down. We build your business around your life and not your life around your business. So you build your business around your life and not your life around your business. And what that means is if you picture that 7x7 grid, an empty calendar with Monday through Sunday across the top, and then essentially 7 2 to 3 hour blocks down the side. Most entrepreneurs, they're going to fill that with work. And if they don't have something going on a Wednesday night, they're going to fill that with work too. And that's okay if you're a startup and you got investor money and like, yeah, you know what, I'm going to have to do this for 2 to 3 years. But if you've been doing this for 5-10 years and you opened your gym or your spa or your real estate business or whatever it is, if you open the business to have more time freedom and financial freedom, and you've basically put yourself in a paycheck prison where if you don't work, you don't get paid. So essentially you're not a business person. You just have a high paying job. Or in some cases, you now make less money than your employees, like a lot of gym owners that I start working with, because they went from a high paid trainer, like, oh, I'll just open my gym. And then like, oh yeah, you realize you have like $5,000 a month in rent and overhead and all this stuff. And now the trainers make more than you and you work 60 hours a week. It's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate, but a lot of people find themselves there and the work leads into personal life. So we start with that 7x7 grid and we put our family and ourselves on the grid first. So you want to have date night goes on the calendar. You want to have family movie night. Like I have a client, he just sold his business to PayPal, got lots of money. His kids are 12 and 13. And the most important thing for him is he's starting a new business, but the most important thing is like he's got like 12 months left before these kids want nothing to do with him on a Friday night, right? So every Friday night they have movie night. That goes on the calendar first for him. It's the most important thing. And so you put those things on the calendar first as non-negotiables. Not like, hey, we're going to have date night tonight at 7. We're going to go dinner and a movie. And then like at 3 o'clock, you cancel the movie. And then at 4:30, you say, hey, I'll just bring home Chick-fil-A. Like, no, that's not how you do it. That's a negotiable. You put it on as a non-negotiable, like a call with your lawyer is a non-negotiable. Going to the dentist, in most cases, non-negotiable. You put your family stuff on there, dinner at grandma's, the planning and preparation on Sunday morning, my 2 or 3 workouts per week so that I maintain my health and energy as an entrepreneur. All that stuff goes on the calendar. And we use those as bumpers and boundaries, much like when you take a child bowling. What do? The very first thing, the bumpers go up so they don't roll a gutter ball. And we put these family and personal things on our calendar first so that we don't roll gutter balls in life. And this is not just about like, oh, working less. No, this is about working better because you have other things to do outside of work. I know too many people that get old like me. And, like for a while there, I forgot how to have fun because I didn't have this thing in place.
Yeah.
So, pendulum swung a little bit too far one way. And now there's a lot of free time on the other way. Like I just went to the doctor last week. My heart rate is 40 beats per minute resting. My blood pressure is 106/62. And he's like, are you sure you're an entrepreneur? I'm like, yeah, man, I got this dialed in.
Yeah. And it's all about, it seems like it's all about structure, like everything you said, structure, discipline. Yeah.
But it all starts with clarity, right? Like if you don't know if you don't know what matters more in your life, then you're going to have this really messed up calendar because you're going to be trying to work 12 hours a day and then trying to put 12 hours of family time. Like you got to figure out what matters first, and then you build your business around that.
Yeah, and this might be on a different level to ask you this, but I look at, we were talking earlier about this 5 a.m. club, and I say all the time, I tried to like force myself to get up early and do Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning and all this stuff, and I was like, this just isn't me. I became an entrepreneur, so I didn't have to get up on somebody else's schedule. And so, I still wake up at a decent time. I'm up around 6:30 every single morning, which is fine. And then I get everything done during the day, but I feel like we're living in this world of like, well, they're doing it, so I have to do it. right? So Gary Vee's hustle. Everybody's got to hustle. Like, how do you get the clarity on what you really want versus what you see?
Here's my favorite thing is like what time we get up in the morning has become this big penis contest,
so
right?
I say this all the time.
Dude, you get up at 5 a.m. I get up at 4:45. Like you're a wussy. Like what? Come on. Like where did this come from? And I am talking from a guy who gets up early in the morning, but I get up early in the morning because I don't want anybody else to get up early in the morning. That's the whole point of getting up early in the morning, because nobody else is.
Right.
You know,
get your stuff done. Yeah.
So here's the thing: is in the Perfect Week formula, I talk about how everybody now has these morning routines that have become a perverse form of procrastination. Because I've had clients email me at 7:30 in the morning and say, Craig, I've been up since 5 a.m. I did my gratitude journaling. I did my freeform journaling. I did my yoga. I did my meditation. I watched a motivational YouTube video. I did interpretive dance. And now it's 7:30 and I haven't gotten anything done and I feel really stressed out. Yeah, it's because there's actually an article on Inc.com called "The 14 Things That Successful People Do Before Breakfast." It's like one of them's email. Like, no, they don't. Like, it's a 4.5. And then somebody else added it all up, and it's 4.5 hours. And you're like, this is just adding to the stupidity.
Yeah.
And so again, it goes back. To, know thyself. Know thyself. Know what matters. Know what you want. Know what you don't want. So a not to-do list, just as important as a to-do list. That's one of the key principles from the Perfect Day formula. Not to do. Not to do. I will not do these things. I do not want these things. These things do not matter. Then you must be super clear about that. Otherwise, you get caught up playing somebody else's game. Oh man, that guy next door, he just got the brand new BMW. My BMW is from last year. How am I going to go on? Like, right? But that's people's lives. That is people's lives, and especially for us East Coasters, that is our lives. And so,
you're not kidding, man.
I want to remove people from that by going, hey, listen, none of that stuff matters, so you don't have to go and chase it. Which then allows your mind to be free, so you actually work better. I mean, it's so ironic, right? But the less stuff you're chasing, and it's very much like there's data now showing that socially conscious corporations outperform in their stocks and in their profits than companies that don't give any mind to that. The ruthless companies actually perform worse than the companies that do the stuff that, the people would traditionally think, oh, that's just going to cost you money and there's no benefits to it and all that stuff. No, that stuff is actually better for your business. Very much like being clear and free of mind makes you a better business person, because you're able to put your mental energy to what matters, as opposed to having negative mental energy leaking towards whatever it is that doesn't matter. So that's just so important. So your morning, again, not about the hour you get up, about what you do with the hours that you are up. So if you're getting up at 9 o'clock in the morning and you're crushing life, don't think you have to change your life because, Joe Schmo gets up at 5:30 in the morning or he is part of some 5 a.m. club. It's actually quite unhealthy for you. So I've been I went for a while where I wasn't sleeping as much as I should have. And now I'm putting more emphasis on it because there's just too much information that you're really damaging not only your own health, but you're putting a lot of other people at risk when you do not sleep enough. So if you're a part of the 5 a.m. club and you can't get to bed until 11 o'clock at night, you're actually a danger on the road. Drowsy driving kills more people every year than drunk driving.
Wow.
Yeah. Scary.
That is really scary. That's crazy.
Horrible.
So are you somebody who gets 8 hours of sleep every single night? Is that part of your,
I have, so I got the Oura Ring thing, which tracks your sleep, and I'll be in bed a lot of nights for 8 hours, but this is something I've always kind of woken up a couple times. So it'll show me, hey, yeah, you were in bed for 8 hours and 15 minutes. You slept 7 hours and 15 minutes. And, whether or not that thing is 100% accurate, but that's about a common thing for me, that if I'm in bed, lie in bed at 8:30, read for 10 minutes, I fall asleep like very quickly. And, I'm testing no alarm right now, and I'm naturally getting up, 4:15, sometimes 4:45. I'm not worried about it right now. I'm doing some experiments, but it'll still say 7 hours. And I'm like,
Yeah.
so, and it's been weeks now. So it's not like something I was getting used to. And I do all the sleep hygiene stuff. So, maybe that's just me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think there's a study that like, they've done the study of like, if you're living between 6 and 8 hours, if that's enough for you, you're healthy. And so you're literally in the middle. So so you're good.
I think I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
But I'm not an 8-hour sleeper. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's fair. So obviously, with this podcast, I've had the opportunity to interview some of the most successful people on the planet. But success for everybody is defined differently. So my question for you is, what's your definition of success? And then what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
I would say that success is living according to your values and your vision. And definitely being your best self, pushing yourself to be your best self. That, you can't have your values and your vision at age 20. Like you can't use that as like, I just want to make $50,000 a year and not live in my mom's basement. Like, okay, it's got to evolve. Yeah. So always pushing yourself to improve your values and your vision so that you live your best life. Like if I ask this one question, 2 questions that I ask in my coaching programs, like, who are you? And for me, when is what we were talking about before, take your strengths and your experiences and who are you? What were you put here on earth to do? And then it depends on your faith, or if you have no faith, the way that the question is asked is, what's God's 10x plan for you or the universe's 10x plan for you? What were you put here to do? And if you're living on a path that is in accordance with that, then you're successful. That's what it is. So the 3 things that I do every single day is that I wake up and I just started this, but I've always done a lot of like getting the stuff out of my head and just making sure that I'm thinking as big as possible. So sure. I came up with 10 questions, one question from 10 people that I look to as mentors. So I call it my virtual mentoring session. And it's the same 10 questions, same question and I apply that to different areas of my life. Like I have one from Grant Cardone. How can you 10X this? It might be about my mastermind or my coaching. And my question from Joel is, how can you do this faster? And my question from Bedros is, how can I be a better leader? And my question from Dan Sullivan is, who can do this for you so that I'm not doing all the stuff? So it's like a challenge. It's like gets me thinking different. So that's one thing that I do every day. The second thing that I do every day for this is I make sure that I have an hour of writing. I'm a writer, whether it's writing scripts, whether it's writing books. I need to write. I need to get stuff out of my head. I don't really love talking. And so I need to write to get my thoughts out.
Well, thank you for talking with me.
No problem. I've done about 400 podcasts because I'm a very introverted person by nature. And in the past, it literally took energy for me to talk. Like I despised talking. I do my own podcast and I will procrastinate on that as much as anything because I usually do just solo rants. And I'm like, can I just write this? But over time I've gotten better. So I've probably done about 10,000 hours of talking through my YouTube videos and podcasts and stuff that I'm like a normal person. And so the third thing is some type of activity every day. Is just whether it's, every single day I do about a 75-minute walk with my dog not first thing, but after I've done my work in the morning. And then I lift a couple times per week. So as long as I'm doing something there, I know that that's going to keep me healthy and energetic for as long as I feel like kicking around.
Awesome, man. So this conversation has been awesome. And I wrap up every single interview with the same question. But before I
do feel bad though, because I feel like we didn't even talk about Unstoppable, which is for entrepreneurs with anxiety. So just want to make sure to cover that one. And then with the Perfect Day Formula, just want to make sure people understand it's a good structural formula and systems for you at any time of day to get lots of stuff done. So
now,
just want to make sure we cover that.
No, of course. And all this will be in the show notes. And obviously for the Perfect Week Formula, do people need to read the Perfect Day Formula first, or are they 2 separate things?
2 separate. Yeah. And there's hardly any overlap.
Cool. I'm excited for it, man. And obviously Unstoppable is something that I think is extremely important right now, especially for entrepreneurs. And we live in this hustle world because of guys like Gary Vee, who I respect greatly, but you don't need to hustle like he does. But it creates anxiety and overwhelm and all those things. And is there anything you want to add about that before we wrap everything up?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very glad you asked. I really like Grant Cardone. I've been to a sales boot camp. I follow the guy. He's one of the 10 or 9 people I follow on Instagram because I think there's a lot to learn from him. Whether you like him or not, there's a lot to learn from him.
Yeah.
And people, I mean, he's got a great life. You know, he's got young kids, beautiful wife, private jet. Realize he did not get married until 45. He really was. I mean, he was successful, but not uber successful until after 45. He didn't have kids till he was 52. And so if you're a 25-year-old person, you're looking at Grant Cardone, and like, man, I want that jet. Great. You got about 40, well, not 40, but about 35 years until you get it, because that's when he got his, right?
Right.
So Grant's an interesting guy because he doesn't look 62 or 63 or whatever he is now. And people underestimate, don't think, oh, he must be like 50. And he didn't even get married until 45. He screwed up a lot of stuff, and he worked his brains out till 45. And so if you want to get married to your fiance or girlfriend right now, or, you know, boyfriend for all the females listening, realize like he made a ton of sacrifices. So you can't have everything that he has right now if you want to live life your way. That's really important to know.
That's huge.
And I like the guy a lot. I think he's funny.
That's such a great take. And I'm actually good friends with a guy named Fabio Viviani from America's Top. He's actually right behind me. But he was on America's Top Chef, massive entrepreneur, and he's friends with Grant. Yeah, so he's friends with Grant, and he tried to start this app, which unfortunately failed. It was a really good idea, just didn't get put together properly. And Grant was on the app, and like you have to do like these introduction videos as an influencer on the app, and it was him in a hot tub. And he's like, "Here I am in the hot tub." Like, this is his intro video for this whole entire app. I'm like, that is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. Just had to throw it out there.
And you did the interview with Dan and Joel?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Dan Long, he has to be related to Grant Cardone some way, because if you don't look at Grant Cardone and you just listen to Grant Cardone's voice, he's totally like Dan Long's brother.
Yeah, they're definitely related, and the energy level is the same. I've had Dan on my show too after I met him, because that was
cool.
Yeah, and so I met him, and his energy was through the roof, and he hijacked my interview, which was fine because he's a smart dude, and it was a good time. But
and so one other thing on Grant is I went to one of his sales boot camps, and this guy, again, he's 62 years old. He starts talking at 9:30, no breaks. I swear I did not see him drink any water. He stopped at 1:30 because everybody had to go to lunch. And then he spoke at lunch, and then he came back and talked until 6:00. 62 years old. That's success, because even if he wasn't, you know, as financially successful, to want to do that and to be able to do that at 62, and whether you're talking about, you know, your faith, or whether you're talking about happy marriages, or you're talking about working out, to me, that is a level of the success that you would go up and just talk for 8 straight hours. Much like I never could talk about fitness for 8 hours. I didn't like talking about fitness. I could talk about this stuff for 8 hours. And so I feel like I love the path that I'm on right now.
Dude, I love it, man. So before I get to the final question, how do people get a hold of you? Where do they get your books? What's all that good stuff?
Yeah. So freeperfectdaybook.com for the Perfect Day Formula. Great place to start. We don't have a page yet for the Perfect Week Formula, but they're all on Amazon too. So you can get them there, and Audible. If you get Unstoppable, get the audiobook. It's some of my best work. And then you can get a hold of me on Instagram at Real Craig Ballantyne. I answer all my DMs myself. And I love email. I'm one of the very few people that love email. So you can email me anytime at craig@godfather.com.
Awesome, man. I love it. So obviously this podcast is called The Growth Now Movement. So I wrap up every single episode with this one question, and that is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
I would say that there's 2 of them. So one was from South Africa last summer. I went with Joel and Dan and their families, and they all jumped off this cliff, and it wasn't a bungee, it was a swing. And so you drop down, it's 278 feet, and all of a sudden it catches you and it swings you out over the water. And it was in Zimbabwe, over near Victoria Falls. And I didn't do it. And then the next day, all the kids and their families wanted to go back and do the zip line thing that was right beside it. And I'd spent the last 24 hours kicking myself, and I was like in inner anxiety and turmoil, like, you're going to regret this for the rest of your life. You're an idiot. You say jump out of your comfort zone, and here you had a chance and didn't do it. And then I did it. And it was pretty cool. So I show that video all the time. And then, because I was also like the only grown man there that didn't do it. It was shameful. So it was like, man, what are you doing? So that was a good moment. And then also back in 2006, when I had the anxiety attacks, I'm definitely one of those people who like, hey, listen, you got to turn your lemons into lemonade and then make it the most profitable lemonade stand in the world from your lemons that you get. And that's the way that I turned the anxiety attacks into, first of all, I do use it for my business, but second of all, it's like my mission in life. Like anybody out there who has entrepreneurial anxiety, my mission is to solve it for you. Like I will do that all day long. I will talk about how you can overcome it, which is through clarity, discipline, and structure, my way. That's what I want to do. So I turned that very tough time in my life, 2 emergency room visits, into what I do today.
Awesome, man. I love it. Craig, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your wisdom, and continuing to impact the entrepreneurial world in such a big way, dude. This was a ton of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. It was great.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.